My own daughter laughed at me in my own house, the one I built with my bare hands. A week later, that same laughter turned into silence when I gave it all away. Not out of anger, but out of peace. I'm Walter Green, 65, an artisan from Oregon. Before we begin, help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers. Your one click keeps stories like Walter's alive. Stories of pride, heartbreak, and redemption that prove kindness is the strongest revenge. The scent of sawdust and pine had been part of my life for over 4 decades. My name's Walter Green, and for 40 years, I've worked with my hands, shaping wood into something that lasts longer than the person who made it. This house in coastal Oregon was my greatest piece. Every table, every beam, carved and built by me and my late wife, Nora. After Nora passed away 10 years ago, the home turned quiet, too quiet. So when my daughter Emily and her husband Brian asked if they could move in just for a few months, I said yes. I thought it would bring back some laughter, some life, and for a while it did. At first, we'd have dinners together. Emily would tell me about her work, Brian would crack harmless jokes, and I'd listen, grateful for company again. But little by little, things began to change. My handmade furniture started to look too old-fashioned. Brian would say, "Maybe it's time to sell these antiques, Walter. Get something modern." Emily would sigh when she saw me sanding wood late at night. "Dad, don't you ever rest?" she'd ask. They stopped treating my craft as art and started treating it like a hobby of an old man with too much time. Then came the night that changed everything. We were having dinner. Roast chicken, wine, the usual chatter. Brian's friends were visiting. They were young, loud, and full of opinions. When one of them asked what I did, I smiled and said, "I'm an artisan. I make furniture," Brian chuckled. "He means he carves old chairs in the garage." The table erupted in laughter. Even Emily tried to hide her smile. I didn't say a word. I simply stood, cleared my plate, and walked out to my workshop. Out there, surrounded by the smell of oak and varnish, I realized this wasn't my home anymore. It was just a house filled with strangers. The laughter from that dinner never really left my ears. It echoed in the walls I once polished with pride, a cruel reminder that time doesn't always make things stronger. Sometimes it wears them down. For the next few weeks, I kept my distance. I'd wake up early, head straight to my workshop, and spend my days there. It was my only refuge, a small world that still listened to me. Every tap of my chisel, every stroke of sandpaper felt like a heartbeat. One afternoon, I overheard Emily talking on the phone. Her voice was calm at first, but then I caught a sentence that stung like a splinter. "I just wish Dad would stop clinging to that old house. It's like living in a museum." A museum? That's what my home, the same one where she took her first steps, where Nora and I spent every Christmas, had become to her. That night, Brian came into the workshop holding a stack of brochures. "Hey, Walter," he said casually, "Emily and I have been thinking. Maybe it's time to downsize. You know, sell this place, move somewhere simpler." He smiled like it was a friendly suggestion, but I could see the glimmer in his eyes. I wiped my hands on my apron. "This isn't your house to sell, Brian," he shrugged. "Not yet, but Emily's your only heir. Eventually it will be." Then he smirked, the kind of smirk only arrogance can build. "We're just planning ahead." That night, I couldn't sleep. Nora's photo sat beside my bed, her smile frozen in time, full of patience and warmth. I whispered, "You'd know what to do, wouldn't you?" But all I heard was the faint hum of the ocean outside. The next morning, I went for a walk down to Maple Cove, the quiet coastal town nearby. That's when I saw a small community center. Old, worn down, but full of laughter. Inside, a group of veterans were crafting birdhouses from leftover wood. One of them, an older man named George, told me they ran a charity that helped struggling veterans find homes and work through carpentry. For the first time in months, I felt understood. We talked for hours about woodwork, dignity, and the kind of peace that comes from creating something with your hands. Before I left, George said something that stayed with me. Respect isn't about how much you own. It's about what you give back. That night I called my lawyer, Mr. Hayes, and told him exactly what I wanted to do. We started the paperwork quietly, transferring ownership of my property and workshop to the Veterans Foundation. I didn't tell Emily or Brian. Not yet. I just went about my days, calm and polite, while they planned their modern renovations. Then came the Friday evening that would change everything. Emily and Brian were sitting in the living room, excitedly sketching out remodeling plans. I walked in, holding a folder in my hands, and said softly, "You two might want to finish those plans quickly. The new owners move in next month." They looked up, confused. "New owners?" Brian laughed. "What new owners?" I placed the documents on the table. The people who truly deserve this home. The room fell silent, except for the sound of the ocean wind through the window. Emily's face went pale. "Dad, you can't be serious," she shouted, clutching the papers. Brian's smirk vanished. "You gave the house away? To some charity?" I nodded slowly. "Yes, to people who still know the meaning of hard work, the ones who never forgot what a home stands for." Brian slammed his fist on the table. "You're ruining our future." I looked him straight in the eyes. "No, Brian, I'm fixing mine." Emily's lips trembled. "Why would you do this to us?" "To you?" I said, my voice soft but steady. "You forgot this house was built on love and respect, not convenience and comfort. Maybe this will remind you." Silence filled the room. Brian stormed out, muttering curses. Emily stood frozen, tears welling up. For a long moment, I wanted to reach out, but I didn't. Some lessons needed to settle deep, like a seed that only grows after the rain. That night, I sat on the porch watching the Oregon sky fade to dusk. The ocean whispered against the cliffs below. For the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't felt since Nora passed. Peace. If you're still here with me, help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers. Your one click keeps stories like this alive. Weeks passed. The house grew quieter. Boxes stacked by the door, the laughter replaced by regret. On the final morning, as the moving truck pulled in, Emily came to my workshop. Her eyes red, her hands shaking. "Dad," she whispered, "I was wrong. I let him change how I saw you. And this home." I put down my tools and smiled faintly. We all lose our way sometimes. What matters is finding the road back. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I don't deserve your forgiveness." I stepped forward and hugged her, the kind of hug that carries both apology and understanding. "You're my daughter." That's all that matters. When they left, I stood by the window, watching them drive away. The veterans arrived soon after. Strong, humble men with hands marked by labor and dignity. They thanked me with quiet smiles and firm handshakes before getting to work restoring the garden. A month later, Emily visited again, this time without Brian. She told me they had separated. She said she finally understood that respect can't be bought. It must be earned, through kindness, not power. We drove past the old house together. The veterans were painting the porch, laughing, sharing stories. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "You did the right thing, Dad." And for the first time in a long while, her words didn't sound borrowed. They sounded true. That evening, I sat by the fire, whispering, "Nora, our home's in good hands now." Outside, the Oregon wind rustled softly, almost like her voice saying, "You did good, Walter." If this story touched your heart, tell me in the comments what respect means to you. I read every one.